We're going to talk about the work that Behaviour Works Australia does in the public domain. So a lot of the research Behaviour Works Australia does ends up as in reports that people may or may not see, but sometimes we help companies like the Shannon Company in public campaigns. So tell us about something like Save 000. What was the campaign and what was our role in the research?
Yeah, so the Save 000 for Emergencies campaign, which was here in Victoria. So it was done for Ambulance Victoria. And basically the premise was we need a campaign. Too many ambulances are getting caught up in non-essential work, basically. People are calling them up for a myriad of reasons. And what was happening was then those people who critically needed an ambulance obviously weren't getting them in the timely manner.
Perhaps the government goes to the Shannon Company and says, we have an issue with the overuse of 000. People are calling it for the wrong reasons.
Yep.
And the Shannon Company may come to Behaviour Works Australia and say, okay, we need the research. We need to find out the drivers and barriers as to why this behaviour happens. What happens then?
So the Shannon Company are a specialist behaviour change communications organisation. They've been around for, I think, over 30 years now, been delivering campaigns that try to shape attitudes and change behaviour and try and make a real difference to our lives. So trying to sort of create campaigns that really connect emotionally to people in order to change behaviour or at least get some messages out. So I'm the relationship manager for the Shannon Company. So I spend time in their offices working with their creatives, a whole group of people who are doing some fantastic creative, artistic things that personally I could never do. So what does the evidence say? Why are people calling the line? What have other people tried? What are the types of messages and things that have worked elsewhere? And then asking people. So we did an extensive survey out to ask people, why do you call 000? What are your expectations? And from those two sources of data, a lot of information was telling us that people tend to ring because they think it's there for them. It's a service. Well, hang on, if I need to get to hospital and I don't have another means, that's what I call. Insurance companies, I pay insurance, therefore I'm entitled to use this type of service. The other thing that we also found, which I think is one of the interesting ones in this particular campaign, was that campaigns largely tell people don't do something. So don't call 000 if you've got a sore toe, go to your GP. And by telling people don't do it, people go, hang on a minute, I can ring 000 for a sore toe. So suddenly we're putting ideas in people's heads, so to speak. So by telling someone not to do it, or that a lot of people are doing this and wasting their time.
You're actually alerting people to a behaviour.
Completely. Yeah. So suddenly it's like, I didn't know that was a thing.
Right.
Hang on a minute. If they're doing it, well, I think this is an emergency. Yeah. Maybe it's something that I can do. So once we've gathered all of this information, we had a stakeholder dialogue with some very smart people from Ambulance Victoria, different groups, different GPs, pharmacists. Okay, well, what does it mean? When do we want people to call? And that's where the title obviously comes from, the very pertinent point of Save 000 for Emergencies. Right. And then what we don't do is say, this is what an emergency is or anything, partly because what we also found through the research is there is some pockets of people who really do need to ring 000 but feel like they're wasting people's times. And they're the ones that you don't want to put off calling. Right. So rather than saying we're having too many calls, don't call us, you want those people who are genuinely having an emergency to go, okay, I think I need to ring.
Right.
And know that the service is there for them. So we know that myth busting generally doesn't work, right, or it has to be done very, very carefully. So again, if we use those types of techniques, generally people hold on to the myth rather than listen to what they should do. So in behavioural science, we know all these types of communication strategies probably won't work in these instances. So again, this is where we then hand over to someone like the Shannon Company and say, okay, well, here's research. What type of thing can you come up with? And from that, the original campaign was the Save 000 for Emergencies. It then went on to say, but what should people do? So if it is a non-emergency, you go to your pharmacist. So a spin-off of the campaign was, we're here. Don't save these for emergencies. But if you want something else, go to this person. Go to your GP. go
Right.
to the nurse on call, something like that. So there's a number of other outlets that people probably weren't using to the best effect that they could have been going to. So rather than saying just don't do something, said do this, but if you need this, do this, this, and this. So
So
there's
it's-
very clear behaviours.
And it's a more nuanced message than don't smoke or don't drink drive. Those are clear social
Yes, they are,
taboos.
yeah.
We
Yep.
get that. This is much more nuanced. There are some people that should not and some people that should.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So by understanding the drivers and barriers of why people were or were not doing the behaviour that we wanted them to do, what it meant is that round a table we could then sit and really tease apart some of the elements of what that looked like. What do we actually want people to do in practice? What does it look like? What does someone want to sit and see in order to get that message across? And in that particular campaign, it was incredibly successful. So we did do a follow-up research because it's really important to evaluate these things and not just from whether or not people recalled the campaign, which unfortunately is the level of research sometimes or evaluation done of public campaigns, but actually to see, did it make a difference? Did it mean that people were going to change their behaviour?
So in terms of behavioural science, how do you keep a message fresh if you have to go back and renew it?
Often what happens is you'll see public campaigns where they're trying to use similar techniques that were used that worked elsewhere, where actually what we should be doing is really looking at the evidence and the research to see if that particular behaviour needs a different approach to it. So for those types of examples, the seatbelt wearing, very clear, click it in, the types of message.
Yeah.
With your phone though, because it's such a constant thing and we use it for things like navigation and everything else, the type of messaging would be different. So just put it on the dashboard or turn it off might not be a message that can actually be used if you're using it for different things within your car. Also, the social norming around the use of phones, for example, particularly around generations, is completely different. So if we don't actually spend that time understanding what is going on, why people do what they do, then it makes it very, very difficult to create a campaign that is really going to be heard by the audience. And that's probably another point I'll go into there actually is around audience segmentation.
Yeah.
So if we have a general campaign that is aimed at everyone, you're less likely to get a change in behaviour than actually if you narrow your market and target particular audience types.
So tell us about Respect Victoria. That's another campaign that the Shannon Company has been involved in. This is about showing respect to women in real life, online, wherever you meet them.
Yeah, not just women though, actually. So it's the campaigns that they did for Respect Victoria was around families. It was LGBTIAQ and elderly. And it really is to say that this is not normal. This is not something that you should be doing.
Right.
So they're using that as a social norming to say, not many people do this.
Yeah.
So maybe you shouldn't either.
Right.
But also then they had the call it out campaigns around if you see it or someone says something, how do you intervene? And understanding how things have changed. And again, drawing on the research means that we can help maybe just add that little extra layer to whatever it is that gets produced.
But evaluation's key to this, isn't it?
Absolutely. We need to know if it's worked. And a campaign can be there for several reasons. It can be to raise awareness of an issue. So when we're wanting to increase public sentiment on an issue, that's what part of the WorkSafe campaign was around, of Come Home Safely, was actually safety at work is a really important campaign. We need to raise this up so that it's on the radar of politicians, people, so that we know this is important. The other thing is obviously the actual behaviour change. So something like the VisCal campaign that the Shannon Company did, really important to actually change behaviour, and we've seen that. Often campaigns don't get evaluated, or they only get evaluated to see how much people can recall them. So do we know what it was about? But it doesn't actually change behaviour, and that's really important because they are, a toolkit for government really to get messages out, and they are designed often to change behaviour. So we either need to know whether or not that has happened, or whether or not attitudes have changed, or whether or not the knowledge is there of this is a thing that's going on. And without the evaluation component, often we don't know whether or not public campaigns, particularly social public campaigns, have actually worked.
Right. Denise, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff.
Cheers.